Gentlemen, behold! Disappointed!
Alright, so after hours and hours of playing, days and nights, breaking nights to play Final Fantasy XVI, I finished it, and I am a bit deflated, to be quite honest. So, the reason for that is there's been so much hype, and I've been hyped myself for this game, to be quite honest. I've been looking forward to this game for a long time, and I started playing it, and honestly, I loved it. I loved the game. But here are my thoughts. So be forewarned, spoilers ahead. There will be spoilers, so please tread with care watching this video, listening to this video. I'm not sure what I'm gonna put in the background, probably like trailers for the game and gameplay from other games, whatever. So you're just here to listen to my unfiltered thoughts. Alright, so first of all, I do have a couple of notes. The beginning of the game is super fun. I loved the cinematic battles, but I felt that after Titan, the game did a dip. They didn't use them as much anymore, the cinematic battles, the cinematic attacks and evasions that they're thrown throughout a lot of the fights, specifically against the Benedicta and against Hugo Kupka. They did a lot of cinematic clashes, cinematic evasions, keep you on your toes, but once you get to Bahamut, they had them, but not as much. Also with Ultima, they had them, but not as much, and also with Barnabas, but not as much. It didn't feel as epic. Sometimes it felt a bit forced. I would have loved to have seen a bit more mini dungeons. Like there's a jail area you go to near the end of the game where you fight a blue behemoth. It was very small, but it was full of enemies, and at the end of the quest there was a boss, and after that you can go in there and fight a mini boss again. That was enjoyable. I would have liked for them to do this more. There was only one area that did something like that in the whole fucking game, and it was only at the end, and I thought that was a huge missed opportunity. Character wise, Jill was basically a wet sponge after her mission where you kill the religious dude that had the order that was controlling her. She just becomes Clive's support, and that's all her personality surmounts to. She supports Clive. Clive, you can do it, we can do this together, and that's it. Honestly, Lunafreya from 15, and I'm gonna be comparing this to 15 a lot because it's the most recent Final Fantasy game we have, besides 16 obviously is the predecessor. Lunafreya had way more personality than Jill. The ending, I feel, was okay. It was decent. The whole Clive sacrificing himself to make the world better, it was enjoyable, but the thing is, law of diminishing returns. In 15, Noctis sacrificed himself for the good of the world, and here Clive did the same. But just worse, because you see him slowly turn to stone alone in the beach, which is a horrible way to give your hero a send-off. At least Noctis, you know, he went to the great beyond and he was Lunafreya, and you hand her the picture that you chose, whatever picture you wanted, and that's it, and he died, and everybody around him cried. The martyr ending was done last game, so yeah, it just felt repetitive. Jill crying because, you know, they did say to each other that they love each other, and they had that fade to black, so they obviously fucked. But I don't know, I just feel the game didn't work for it, you know? The story as a whole was okay, but just okay. It had a large cast of characters, but very few I like to interact with. Mainly 3, and one of them is because he's a dog. Torgal was amazing. Uncle Byron was amazing. He was probably my favorite NPC in the whole fucking game. And Gav was fun. Oh yeah, and I forgot. 4, Sid. Sid was totally fun. But the thing is, all, you know, Uncle Rossfield, Gav, and Sid, they all had like these comic relief moments in a game where everybody is fucking brooding. So that's why I enjoyed them a lot. Sid was a very, very enjoyable. Sadly, he dies not even midway through the game. But again, that's very few characters that I enjoyed interacting with, because not even Clive was really enjoyable to look at. He was brooding. I did enjoy that Clive is a man that is not afraid of feeling his feelings, and he is not afraid of crying. I did enjoy that. Need more representation like that. But in 15 had loads of fun characters, including the villain. And oh my god, Ultima was probably Ultima was the weakest part of the whole fucking story. To me, usually Final Fantasy shines because of the villains. And this dude was boring. Ultima was boring. I think back at Arden. Arden was such a fun villain to look at. He was so enjoyable. Even in the final fight against Arden, that he's doing quips. I remember 10 years and nothing to show for it when you're fighting him, and that was like, he's just making fun of you while you're fighting him. It's great. Ultima is just, oh, we came here, we want to make the world anew, and we are gonna use all of you for energy, and then we're gonna fuck off to somewhere else. And that's it. There was no substance to Ultima, which sucks because the design was superb. They could have done so much with Ultima just taking control, because there were 16 Ultimas in total. That's what the game tells you. They could have done so much more with Ultima, them controlling more people, because you do have a point where Ultima controls Clive's half-brother, and they end up, like infanticiding him. They make him become a non-person, an ex-person. So that was ballsy, but since he had turned into an Akashic already, he just dissipates into nothingness, which is a good way to manage, child death in a video game. But ultimately, Ultima was lame. Was very lame. I'd say Ultima, it's probably one of the worst villains in a Final Fantasy game ever, because people may talk a lot about Cloud of Darkness, but Cloud of Darkness serves basically the same purpose as Necron does in Final Fantasy IX. Cloud of Darkness is just there to fight at the end. They don't really mention her or anything. The main villain is Sunday. Sunday is the real villain of Final Fantasy III, and Sunday was not terrible as a villain. Kuya was amazing as a villain. Alright, so positives. The gameplay was amazing. I will not tire of saying that this game's gameplay was superior to so many other modern games. I just wish it had the game to support it. Were I to give this game a score, ultimately I would give it a 8.5, just because I feel the story and the characters were mid. But the gameplay was so good. I finished the game and I'm excited to start Final Fantasy mode, just because it's just more good stuff, which nothing bad about that. Just give me more more levels, better equipment, tougher monsters, so I can go keep fighting. That said, the game had a severe lack of enemy variety. I felt that I was always fighting either big birds, flying things, small flying things, either like falcons or giant bees or crabs. What else did we have? Wolves. The enemies were very fucking, like, the enemies around the world map, quote unquote, not really world map, but the enemies in the open areas were very repetitive. Bandits here and then. Then when you're going to actual stages, you have soldiers, robots once in a while, the echoes, and that's it. Like the enemy variety was really fucking shit, I believe. That said, the boss fights were amazing, were superb. I loved those boss fights. The boss fights were almost reminded me of how good the boss fights in Dark Souls are. And I think that is a huge praise for an action RPG like Final Fantasy. Comparing comparing these bosses to Dark Souls bosses, because I put Dark Souls bosses in a high echelon. So I think they did it really well with the bosses. So coming back to the comparison, I think Final Fantasy 15 was a much better game with a much better story, even though Final Fantasy 15 was an unfinished mess. Even though Final Fantasy 15 did not have the story done justice as it was supposed to be done. But that said, 16 has much better gameplay than 15 by a lot. But I just feel 15 is a more complete package because the gameplay is fun and decent and the story is amazing. Completely amazing. That said, I think 7 Remake is still better than both. So 16 left me feeling disappointed, not wanting for more, because I do have more with Final Fantasy mode, and again, I'm very excited for that, but it just made me feel, it left me feeling disappointed. Because after, again, the Titan battle, the game takes a huge dip, I feel, with the story. And then Ultima rears his ugly head. Actually, very ugly head. And it's just, you know, he's a villain that, you know, he's been haunting you the whole game. And at the end, he's just, I'm here to take energy from the planet and go away. So it's like, you know, a little bit of Sephiroth, but without the mystique or the mystery behind him, or the tragedy, if you like to go down that route, because he was, you know, experimented upon while he was in embryo. Ultima was just, you know, it's just a monster that's there. He just felt like, you know, monster of the week dude. That's it. No real substance to what he was. I know a lot of people are saying that 16 is gonna be probably game of the year, and it might. I don't think it deserves it though. As good as it was, I don't think it's game of the year material, because gameplay only takes you so far. I think for a game like Final Fantasy, the story is very, very important. And I'm a bit, I don't want to say, but like, fuck man, like gamer depression. That's what I have. I have gamer depression, because I had high hopes for this game, and just feeling, you know, like a wet fart at the end. It could have been so much more, because again, during the Titan fight, during the fight against Garuda, the game to me, it felt like this is the anime version of Final Fantasy, because it feels so anime. But afterwards, it just dropped off when you're gonna go to the big bad, and his plan is just, you know, he's not trying to compress time into a singularity so he can rule all of it. He's not trying to, again, he's like trying to do what Sephiroth did, just get all the energy from the planet and then just fuck off and let everybody else to die. But I feel like Sephiroth handled it better, because, you know, Sephiroth did kill Aerith, which is a very hurtful moment. He toys with you a lot. Ultima, I feel like he didn't do much. Oh yeah, and there's a part in the game when Ultima like puts himself at center stage, that he takes you through a stage where you're walking slowly, and then he just info dumps on you. I think that's the closest Ultima ever got to beat me, because he info dumped on me so hard that I was so bored that I thought about turning the game off. That is not the way you want to handle your storytelling. You know, show, don't tell. But you have like 30 minutes to an hour of him just, well, not an hour, but 30 to 45 minutes of him just spewing out information, info dumping about who he is, where he comes from, and what he wants to do. And that's it. I'm glad for everybody that loves this story, I still enjoy the game a lot. I still love this game a lot. And like I said, I am raring to go to play Final Fantasy mode. But Game of the Year, this is not... Man, would I put this in my top 5 Final Fantasy games of all time? I don't think so. Because 7 Remake is my favorite one. Followed by 15, actually. I would not put 13 over 16. But I think I would put 4 over 16. I think so. So I would go 7 Remake, 15, then probably 7 Original, then 4, and maybe then 16. So it would be in my top 6 spot, I think, if my math didn't fail me there. I've rambled on and off. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for listening to me. I finished the game and I had to run here and say this because I needed to get this shit out of my chest, because right now I don't have anyone near me that is playing the game that I can just chew their ear out about all of this. I hope that the next games I play are better than this. Because the thing is, I went with high expectations because I expect Final Fantasy to be fun as a storytelling device and as a gameplay device. And I think the story here, it started strong, it started amazing, but it fell off. It fell off really fucking hard, the story. I think the overarching story, it was just bad. Mid, crappy. How long has it been? I'm not even looking at the recording anymore. Almost fucking 20 minutes. I am so sorry. Thank you again for joining me. You have yourselves a good one. Bye-bye.